All right, 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. First item up this evening, obviously we're virtual here. So, I wanted to kick the discussion to to all the council members to discuss, what you want to see of public meetings going forward. Obviously, this was a last minute decision made on Friday. I'd hope going forward that, we could stick with this flexibility where it's not something we have set in stone beforehand either way, but can look at the situation as close to the meeting as possible. So I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do with this meeting until Friday. In between, COVID council member cases and close contacts, in between the numerous staff close contacts and cases, it just felt like that this was the best way to conduct tonight's meeting. Outside of that, I'm going to open it up to the floor for other council member comments. Councilmember Smith.
First off, thanks for doing this. I know it might have been a difficult decision to make, but spot on. I really appreciate you taking the initiative to keep everybody safe. And I agree. Let's keep it flexible. I don't think we need to set in stone in advance because this is a very fluid situation. We're ensuring city operation continuity, trying to keep the hospital up and running. I know they're overwhelmed, 100 plus cases on the last report. So I think we should just be flexible in this time and hope we can get through it quick.
Mm-hmm. And just to add on top of that, my feeling is usually the best meetings do happen at City Hall in person. That is my default stance. So it wasn't something I really took lightly to get to that decision. And it was something him and hot over till the final second. And again, heard all the situations and said, it felt like that was the best route to go for everyone's safety, including staff. Councilmember Safe Russell, your hand up there.
Yeah, I agree with so far that this is the best thing to do tonight and maybe the next meeting and maybe the next meeting after that. But it's a very fluid situation. But I'd rather have us err on the side of safety and caution than not. Mm-hmm. With that said, I think we should very much do things this way until we have a very good certainty that an in-person meeting will not further transmit the illness.
Thank you. Councilmember Clevenger.
I definitely agree that being flexible is what we need to do. Certainly want to keep our staff and our citizens safe. I think if you made a decision, Mayor, it would be when you post the agenda on the Friday before the Tuesday, you would decide then at that time that it would be virtual or in person, correct, sir?
Yeah, and correct. And that's what happened here. I was under the gun. I was getting the pressure. They want to put the agenda out and get on with Friday. Right. So, the decision was made basically right at the wire. About the time the agenda had to go out is when I...
Appreciate that and appreciate your leadership. I'm fine with, being flexible and looking at virtual meetings. I do think the best meetings occur in person, but based on where we're at and what we've got with the virus, we need to be flexible. So we need to be able to do either or. So for right now and possibly the next meeting, depending on how the curve flies, definitely be flexible. And if we need to do another virtual, it's fine.
Perfect. Further council member comments? Councilmember Palumbi.
I concur with what everyone else has said. I think really time will tell what we're going to end up going to next. I think we have to watch to see. Hopefully the peak will be reached shortly and we'll see the numbers start to come down like we've seen with the other waves. But right now I would say that for the interest of everyone on council and especially at city council staff, I do think this is our best avenue at the moment.
Perfect. Thank you. Further council member comments? Seeing none, then I'll stick with a similar plan. I mean, obviously, I always would like to err towards the side of in-person meetings, but I'll play it by ear again. I'll see what I'm hearing from staff. I'll see what I'm hearing from council members, and go from there in regards to future meetings. So thank you for the comments. Next up, we're going to kick it over to Kim for the draft strategic plan. Kim.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Are you guys able to see my presentation?
Yes.
You did seem a little quiet on my end. I don't know if everyone else is, or that was just me.
Let me try that again. Is this better?
It's louder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not known for being quiet, so.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for your flexibility with us. We are flexing some muscles that we haven't flexed in a while, so we do appreciate you guys' patience as we kind of walk through this virtual presentation. So in you guys' packet, you did see the printed version of the North Kansas City Governing Body Retreat Summary Report. The City Council did participate in this in August of 2021, specifically August 20th and 21st. And it was a 2-day workshop, and some of the goals were to strengthen the relationship among the members of the governing body and city staff, consider the roles of the mayor and the city council and staff, and identify strategic priorities for the next 1 to 5 years. And again, so just to kind of create some context for those who might be watching from home, there is the master plan. The strategic plan does not replace that. What it does, this master plan is our large ideas. It helps frame the city's decisions for the next 20 to 30 years. The strategic plan is meant to be more of a, what would you like to do in the more immediate future, meaning the more 1 to 5 year period, just so everybody kind of understands. The strategic plan is actually adopted underneath the master plan. So it was done by KU's Public Management Center, and some of the items that kicked off the very first day was understanding city council staff roles. And this right here was actually done, Dr. John Nabanian, who is a professor of public administration for the University of Kansas. He is a former mayor and a city commissioner. He is known for helping to teach and define what these are. So he starts off with obstacle success, working conditions, perspective of staff, compelling values. And one of the things that he has come up with is that there are no right or wrong answers for competing values, that they involve difficult choices which can lead to conflict. And he calls that the gap, which we'll get into in just a second. So another thing that KU is kind of known for is teaching high efficiency and high performing organizations. And that was some of the focus of this initial period to help set the stage of why are some communities what's considered high performing or effective, and how other municipalities can kind of become more effective. And what they have found is that high performing or effective governing bodies have a willingness to address the difficult issues or the big picture problems facing a community. They are able to come together as a team, and they have effective relationships with staff. Again, I kind of mentioned the working the gap. Some of his teachings go into, there is stuff that is facing the community that are more political, meaning that they are more nebulous. And then there is a sustainability fork, which is a little bit challenging. So working the gap is a concept that he has come up with to help bridge the gap between governing body or elected leaders and staff who are more administrative. So again, what is politically acceptable, what we want to do, and operationally sustainable, what we can do. And some of these are limitations in the span of which we operate in. the cities, we draw our power from the state, and oftentimes, the state does not allow us to do some things that perhaps we would like to do, and that can be very frustrating. So that gap is understanding that that is a challenge and how we can overcome that. Competing values is representation and participation, efficiency and professionalism, social equity, and individual rights. This right here is just kind of a visualization of what he was talking about, is that you have the governing body who kind of operates in the political acceptability sphere. You have staff who is administrative sustainability, and you have community and third parties and community that have different points of view and try to express themselves at different levels of the organization. That in the middle is the CAO, that is the Chief Administrative Officer. Actually, North Kansas City transitioned to this style of government and hired its first public administrator in 1973. We didn't get into this too much in this one, but we do talk about it in the Citizens Academy, kind of the why cities changed to that particular structure. And it had a lot to do with the Pendergast machine and the lessons learned from that. So again, I'm not going to kind of get into that, but definitely was one of the reasons why a lot of municipalities, specifically those in this region, shifted to that style of city management, city government style. So characteristics of politics and administration. Again, what's politically acceptable and operationally sustainable, and kind of those two different mindsets, and the fact that the chief administrative officer and senior staff kind of work in the gap along with our elected officials. And again, it's what do you hear? What do you know? Intangible and tangible items, power and knowledge, just some of those differences of points of view when it comes within city government. So after that presentation, the governing body and the staff engaged in an exercise to kind of set some ground rules of how we were going to proceed together. And this is just kind of an outline of governing body's expectations for staff and what staff's expectations for governing body would be. And again, I don't want to kind of belabor this, but this was just some of the things that it was an exercise to kind of how are we going to move forward in a productive and respectful way. The vision statement was another item that we wanted to take a look at and see if it still fit with North Kansas City. So that began with participants were asked to just kind of describe what kind of community they wanted North Kansas City and what did they want it to be known for. And this is an outline of some of the dialogue that was expressed during that time. Low crime, financially sustainable, engaged residents, small town feel, welcoming, business friendly, vibrant downtown. And from this came the vision statement that was adopted at that particular session. So we are a vibrant, connected community with deep roots and a future focus. We are safe, welcoming destination with ample amenities for all. From that we shifted to our key performance areas, and we did that with what's known as a SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. These are the items that were mentioned during that, and you can see some of our strengths. They're very well known. Our location, Link City, staff, clean. We have a diverse revenue stream. Some of our weaknesses, we are often confused with Kansas City North. We're landlocked. We have older infrastructure. Some of our opportunities are we are a hot market, opportunity zone, the levee trail. Some of our threats are climate, COVID-19, some of the legislation that is currently being thought of at the state level. So from that, we then reviewed the previous strategic plan, reflecting on our successes, and these were definitely some of the items that were in the last strategic plan, which was adopted in 2019. These were a lot of the things that were accomplished during the lifespan of that particular strategic plan. And here are some of the lessons that we shared. You know, when you stall, the prices go up. We learned the value of local government and the importance of building relationships. So with this in mind, we began to develop the 5 key performance areas and priorities. Number 1 is financial stewardship. So the graph to the right is all of the things that came up underneath that umbrella topic. From there, the city, sorry about that. I just got a note that perhaps one of our council members is having connectivity issues, and I do apologize for that. They went through a dot. Everybody, I think, is kind of familiar with the dots. So the red dots indicated general priority, and the blue dots indicated the most important over the long term. And those were given to the city council members to be able to vote on. And this right here was kind of how all of those topics and possibilities were slotted. And from that, underneath the financial stewardship, we are a financially stable, transparent organization with diverse revenue sources to support the ongoing function and growth of the city. Goal 1 is to implement a use tax, and goal 2 is to implement a Parks and Recreation sales tax. Moving on to Community Works, which I'll have to give a big credit to Councilmember Saper, who coined this particular one. And what this is North Kansas City offers amenities and services to enhance quality of life. So to the right there, you can see all of the topic items that they felt fell underneath that umbrella topic. And through, again, a dot voting system, they landed on goal number 1 is to expand parks and green space at River Forest Park. And goal number 2 is to implement complete streets, including levee trails.
Can I ask real quick?
Yes.
Council wants to go over these individually or see them all and then go back through them again?
I am open to whatever you would like.
We'll just keep rolling. We'll keep it rolling. Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
No problem. Number 3 was infrastructure, and that's to plan for and execute capital improvement that supports sustainable community. And again, through a voting, through a dot matrix voting, we came up with goal number 1 is to improve and sustain Link City. Goal number 2 is to replace NKC vehicles with hybrid electric vehicles to work toward a green fleet. Number 4 is economic development, and North Kansas City fosters diverse and prosperous live, work, play environment. Underneath this one, you can see to the right, which all of the items that were kind of explored underneath that umbrella topic. And we landed on goal number 1 to incent redevelopment more aggressively, especially industrial areas and affordable housing. And goal number 2 is to develop housing repair and maintenance programs. The last item is engaged organization, and that was to be an employer of choice to facilitate active community involvement, foster effective two-way communication. And again, through kind of a voting process, we landed on goal number 1 to provide competitive compensation and benefit packages with policies that support individual families. For next steps, I'm going to kind of run through what our next steps would be and then open it up to dialogue. There is a formal adoption process. So my wonderment would be, after I kind of complete this and I'm almost done, to ask for your ideas, thoughts, and edits, and then to bring this forward for formal adoption by the governing body. There is an implementation plan, which I'll get to here in a second. And I'd like to talk a little bit about how we will use that, and that is through resource allocation and communication. So inside of your packet, you saw a matrix. This is how we intend to report on the city staff's progress. We will do this similarly to how we've done it before, and that would be quarterly. And we provide an update and a status. Again, what you're seeing here is what that item is, who the owner of that item is, and we intend to populate the update and status fields as we move forward with our progress in these particular key areas. Next steps. Because of the timing of these conversations, we did utilize some of this information in the fiscal year 2021-22 budget. That is the budget that we are currently operating in. With this mindset, we have moved forward some policy through the City Council, and we do appreciate the support that helps support several of these items. One of those items was the minor home repair and modification program that was approved as part of the fiscal year budget that we're in, as well as the paternal leave, the maternal and paternal leave policy that was recently approved by the City Council, allowing for 8 weeks paid leave for those who might be bringing in a new member of their family. We do intend to incorporate this into the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. This is a government financer officer's GFOA best practice. This has been something that we have been wanting to move into the direction thereof, meaning that you very much so marry your strategic plan, your master plan objectives in a visual way to your budget considerations. That way you are clearly showing that this was the direction that the community wanted to go, and here is how we are reflecting that in our budget. We would like to be able to move to more of our budget process toward more of best practices. And this way we can clearly communicate how we are spending our taxpayers' money, as well as quarterly reporting. So I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to stop sharing the screen so you guys can see each other. And I am open to any feedback or questions you may have.
Okay, I'll kick off on one. I just don't like the wording on this one. Economic development, goal 1. Incent develop the redevelopment more aggressively, especially in industrial areas and affordable housing. One, it just seems like a lot. And I'm not sure who wrote it. Do we recall what the context was of aggressively? Can we reduce it? I don't know. Just on paper, like I don't even know what that means, more aggressively. And furthermore, I talked to Kim a little bit today, looking at our incentive policy. I do think we maybe split it in a couple different goals. And obviously we look at the residential and the affordable aspect, which falls under the residential umbrella. And then all other business type incentives as well. Kind of looking at the policy through a couple different lenses there, because they're hardly comparable things when you're talking incentives. But whatever council thinks. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, this was a bullet point on 2 different places. I think there was an affordable housing aspect of redevelopment, and there was also, general redevelopment of properties. And I think those got smushed together and put under this one, which is probably why we see the high number of red dots. And I don't remember perfectly. I could be wrong on that. But I think that's why we've got this kind of dual goal sitting under economic development. And you're right. I think we could take out the words more aggressively. That's kind of nebulous there's not a lot of direction behind it. So we could incentivize redevelopment, but we don't have to get super aggressive with it.
Thank you. Further councilmember comments? Councilmember Clevenger.
Just a quick question, actually. When we were talking about, with the community and Link City, we were talking about them. Have we had discussions with Link City about the fiber optic network and the capital improvements and how, the status of our equipment that we have, and if we'll need to make any improvements? Because I know that we have an agreement coming up with them in 2014 or 2024 for renewal.
It's something I know I've talked about. I don't think it's a conversation we've had yet. But certainly knowing that's the direction generally that we got from most of the councils, we want to make sure we take care of the network. I certainly think that's something we can do right around the corner here, something we need to probably, be looking at the condition of the network pretty soon before we even enter into contract negotiations.
Okay, good.
But whatever else you have to add, Kim.
I took several notes during that day, and one of the things that I had several council members kind of ask me was, in a future budget, can we include an audit of our current, of the Link City network, to get an understanding of how the network looks currently and what type of infrastructure needs it may need in the immediate and longer term future. So I do intend to have something like that in the upcoming budget request.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
One other thing, and as I'm looking down this economic development piece in particular, through the whole plan, we have a lot of things that are resident focused, which is our primary focus. So that makes a lot of sense. But there's not much about supporting like our existing businesses, our industrial business community, which is a big part of our backbone in North Kansas City. And I don't know if now is the time to like add a goal somewhere down there at the bottom, or something that we can focus on is continuing to support our legacy businesses. The Tenemics, the XL Tubes, the groups that are, employing a lot of people in our city. I don't know how that would work its way into this plan at all, or if it's, that ship has sailed, but I think it's something, even if it's not written, that we should continue to focus on, because that is a big part of our, our tax base and our employment base.
Thank you. I see another. Sorry, Councilmember Saber.
Yeah, each of those large organizations, business organizations, have their own particular needs at particular times, and to have sort of a blanket kind of approach to them doesn't seem to me to make a lot of sense. I think we should fully consider their particular needs as they arise and when they come up. But other than that, putting it in the plan, I'm not sure it makes sense.
And I could see that potentially as the redevelopment. You take a site like XL2, right? So that's where we use an incentive policy for redevelopment to help take care of an industrial, I guess more traditional industrial business. Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I agree with Tony too. Like it's every ask is going to be individual, but as a general, because this is kind of our guiding principles, our guiding plan, that if we do get an ask from one of them to be, open to it, to open to discussing, and to, still having that as a focus, because it's pretty much left out of the plan entirely. Like it's not mentioned anywhere other than continuing relationships with the business council, which, that's part of it. But really, they are, the industrial businesses take our daytime population to like 40,000 people versus it's almost a 10x of who lives here. And they support our local eateries. They bring people to town. It's a tax base. So making clear that is an important part of our, our city is something I think could fit into the plan. I just there's not an action item that I could come up with that makes sense other than a general continue to support the goings on of the industrial community.
All right, further councilmember comments. Councilmember Roberts.
I guess the only question I would say is, by adding something that says continue to support, it almost seems redundant because we are already supporting it. It almost seems like we would be making up for something that we don't need to make up for. I think we do a good job as a city supporting our existing small businesses. I don't think we need to draw attention to something that's, I think, already being done very well by the city government.
Thank you. Further councilmember comments. Councilmember Grace.
Yeah, so I guess this is just kind of a general overall question. I'm flipping through like the 2019 strategic plan, and it seems like there's more strategies on the 2019 plan than this 2021. This one looks pretty short. It's basically 2 pages long, and the 2019 plan is like, a dozen pages or so long. And then if you flick through, when we did our little dot chart, there's things that got, I'll just give you an example. Streetcar was on here, had 3 dots under community works, but it didn't make the cut. It's not on the strategic plan. Then there's other items that were important to me that got 2 dots that, didn't make the cut. So I'm just curious as to why we don't include more items on the strategic plan. Maybe some things that got 2 dots. The only one I think that got 3 dots that didn't make the cut was streetcar. So it looks like were you guys just trying to just do two goals per priority?
Yes. Yeah. You got that one.
Yes. So that is what and again, so KU was the one who prepared the document the written one. And I'm not sure if you remember the conversation from that, but it really was focus on a few items, specifically because we were in the middle of a pandemic. We did not really understand who and what that was going to take us. Do a few items. She recommended 2 goals. And should you wish to kind of use this list to expand on at a future date, again, we are happy to include more, but they had kind of warned us, you can do a lot okay, or you can do a few things very well.
And I'd also note that several of the things we've already started on are already completed since we've done this. They had 0 dots, some of them. Install additional public art. We're getting ready to have our next Crummett Foundation meeting. Kim can probably rattle them off faster than I can look at the sheet and do it. What else did we do? There. Go ahead, Kim.
No, there are several on here that we have made pretty good headway on to it. Like I said, I'm more than happy to add more to this. Please understand that when this was happening, and still today is a great example of, we just really don't know where this epidemic and pandemic are taking us.
I would add one just on his point, and then I'll get back to Councilmember Grace because I saw his hand up. It might make sense to go ahead and add the streetcar on the plan itself. I mean, it's something that is already underway. We're getting ready to fire up the advisory committee. So I think it would make sense to have it on the sheet. It's something that is happening now. The conversations around it, I mean, at least. Councilmember Graves. And then Robert.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Mayor, that some of these items we've actually already completed that are on the strategic plan. One was the home repair maintenance program. So we're already knocking some of these off the list. I would like to see us add some more. I think 2 is weak. I think we should have 3+ on each under each goal, in my opinion. And if you go back and look through our bubble chart, it looks like easily we could add. Most of these have 1, 2, or 3 more that got at least two bubbles that we could add. And I'm all for that. I don't know what everyone else's opinion is, but I think we can get more done than what's on here.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, I'm just gonna tag on with what Councilmember Graves said here. Like looking through these, it looks like almost every one of these has like 1 to 6 things that are already being started or are almost completed. I almost think it makes sense to, like, we can go ahead and like push this through tonight, but I almost think we should set a date, maybe like in the summer, to reevaluate this, because I foresee a lot of these being completed not for multiple years, but for maybe this calendar year, and we'll have a list that's relatively small, especially with the new city administrator coming in. I think we should probably set a date in the future, maybe after the elections and city administrators, and to reevaluate and update this, because I think in 6 months it's going to be significantly missing quite the plan, the master plan, if you will, for the future. Because I think we can probably knock off about 10 or 15 things here if we really like talked about it. And also if you get down to it, like things like, there's like one that was just like support the business council. It's like, well, that's not really a plan. That's just like let's just keep that relationship going. That's not really like a in-date goal to have. Some of these probably shouldn't even be on there because there are just like general statements of like, we want to keep doing this, but it doesn't have a hard end date, yet it's one of the priorities in red or blue. So I think like, while I think we could nitpick this right now, I don't think it's the time and place. I think we should probably just say, yeah, well, this looks pretty good. We spent a lot of time on it, but let's set a date like maybe June or July next year when we have the new council in and we have a new administrator in to kind of reevaluate and really set forth what the next series looks like.
Thank you. Councilmember Toll. I don't know how long your hand's been up. I'm sorry. It's been a while. It like blends in with the photo. I just now saw it in there. And you're on mute. That was your best point too, and you're on mute.
That's
there we
user
go. There we
error.
go. Let's see if we
That's
can get
user error. Where I was explaining, I had technical difficulties. I was emailing with Steven, so I had my camera off to see if that was part of the problem. So I missed part of the presentation. I had a question related to that, which is the wording about aggressively seeking affordable housing. In what we have, that's the attachment that's here that shows the red and the blue dots, I don't see that wording. Is that wording only on the presentation that you have, Kim? The wording of the goal? Because the goals as they're written on this document that I have aren't worded the same. So I just wanted to make sure I
have it on page 17 of the PDF document.
Yeah.
17. Incentivize redevelopment more aggressively, especially industrial areas and affordable housing. It's the top goal under economic development. And page 17.
Okay.
Page 16, page 17 of the PDF.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. I was just following along problems because I was a little bit behind. So thanks. I hear what everybody was saying, and I like what Councilman Roberts said about having a strategic plan with items that are attainable and provable. Instead of just supporting, saying actually what we're going to do. I also understand what Kim's saying about only having a limited number of goals in each section so that we attain those goals, as instead of almost attaining a ton of goals. So I can see both sides there. The goal for today and the strategic plan for 2 or 3 years, is this something we want to revisit in 6 weeks, or do we want to hammer it out, or 6 months, or is this something we really do want to hammer out now, Kim, to get it how we like it and let it be for the 2 to 3 years?
I was going to say 6 weeks. You're on an aggressive timeline there.
I meant 6 months. What Councilman Roberts had said. Sorry.
So because we are trying to merge this document into our budget, we could revisit it during some of the budgeting. I kind of like the idea of it being more of a living, breathing document versus we set it and forget it. I kind of like the idea of, hey, if we're knocking several things off, why not go back to the well and see what else we could do in a couple of years. So if you guys are amenable to revisiting this as part of our budgeting process, I think we would be very happy to, like I said, one of our goals is to further incorporate these two documents together.
Okay, sounds like a good plan. Thank you, Kim.
I think that sounds like a solid strategic plan to me. Councilmember Palumbi, I'll let her go. She hasn't gone yet. Then we'll get to Councilmember Smith again.
I agree with Councilmember Roberts, and I do think there's significant things we've already crossed off. And so I like the idea of the kind of the moving document, because I think we can add things as we start to check other things off. Because I do agree with Councilmember Graves that we did leave a lot of these things off, and I don't want them to kind of be forgotten or kind of pushed under the rug. Because there's a few things on here that I, was in favor of, specifically related to Ward 4 that kind of didn't make the cut. And I do think, like Adam said, we've crossed off a significant amount of these. So it kind of feels like those checklists you make yourself. It's just so you can kind of feel like you checked something off to make yourself feel better. So I do think that 6 months from now, this document might be half what it is. And then we could hopefully add additional goals that we kind of maybe kind of come up, especially if, fingers crossed, COVID starts to loosen up and we can kind of do some things that maybe our hands are currently tied with. So that's kind of where I'm at.
No, I just said there's some interesting things like you mentioned Ward 4 stuff, like the grocery store, right? It's been a priority for most everyone on the council here, and it got 0 stickers, 0. But it was part of the process we played. The initial process to get to the list of things we were considering, it was important to everybody. But then when you got to what's next, like that's a project we're already working on, almost, we're getting to what we can, check off and some KPIs there. So it's like, it was just an interesting process. So I agree with the living, breathing document, rotate stuff in, rotate stuff out. Councilmember Smith now.
Yep, I agree with everything said there. Living document. We've got the list of goals. We know what they are. We can refer back to them as we go. One thing, I'm looking at the strategic plan, and under the responsibility column, most of them just list everybody, which, yeah, we're all going to have a hand in doing these things, but that's kind of useless as reporting out. So like, I never have seen a strategic plan that lists like the entire city. For example, a continue to implement bike master plan. We got everybody listed. Like, that really rolls up to community development. So I'd like to see that list narrowed down to the person who's going to be reporting out. And then like, we all know that who's going to be working on it. Just a critique of the plan itself.
Good point.
We're just gonna put Anthony Sands on everything.
Yeah, well, then everything gets done this week.
Yeah. All right, you got that, Kim? You gonna refine, or can you look at, or why was it like that? I guess
A lot of it is it's very much so a teamwork, and a lot of it really, just like any organization, the buck stops at the city administrator. So ultimately, that is who's charged with taking this particular plan and implementing it. But of course, nobody works alone. So I can definitely put responsibility. I can rework this so it's more clear of who has chief responsibility on it.
Good.
that would make sense. All right, further council member comments. Kim, further guidance needed. What else do you need from us?
No, what I will do is I will rework this with some of the conversation. I very, very much so appreciate you, all of the direction I've heard tonight, to make sure that I'm bringing forward something that you guys would like to see. And it won't be at the next city council meeting, but perhaps the second one in February. I'll bring this forward with all of the changes that have been requested for formal adoption.
Fantastic. If there's no further council member comments, we will adjourn. Do I need a motion here? No, I can just adjourn this.
Yes. So just remember, everybody, we're flexing old muscles. Do not log out. You can turn off your microphone, turn off your camera. But this is the link that you will be using when you come back for regular session.
And Mayor, you do need a motion and a second to adjourn because it's a special meeting, not a work session.
I knew someone was going to put me in there. Okay. And we're going to roll call. Okay. So procedurally, we're going to roll call the votes again, just like we did before. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second, Clark. All in. Okay. Roll call, please. Have it.
Councilmember Saper,
Yes.
Councilmember Tull,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger,
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Clark,
Yes.
Councilmember Palumbi,
Yes.
Councilmember Graves.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion carries. See you at 7.